the neighborhood. Why do we see much further than we should? You're sick of the lies, sick of the lies. Who you gonna call when you get on the line? Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Yeah! GLOBEBUSTERS! 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 If there ain't no curve, there ain't no ball. The globe religion about to fall. We're gonna open your eyes so you can see who you gonna call if you wanna be free. GLOBEBUSTERS! 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 Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Yeah! GLOBEBUSTERS! GLOBEBUSTERS! GLOBEBUSTERS!
And welcome everybody to GLOBEBUSTERS. We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of GLOBEBUSTERS Tech. I'm your host, Zach, Good Times for All, and today we're going to be talking about living water. Now, that may sound a little funny to some people, but yes, water, in my opinion, is alive. And I'm not talking about little amoebas floating around in it or anything like that. Water is one of those essential things that all life pretty much needs. Everything that's growing. I mean, even when crystals grow, they usually grow in some type of solution. Now, not always. They can go straight from a gas to a crystal, but, you know, the parameters have to be just right for that. But, yeah, water is living, and it's really neat because there's so much stuff that water can hold. And today we're going to get into that. When you play music around water, that music will affect that water. When you speak around water, that water will be affected by it. I know Cammie and Bob had done many experiments with this, making this beautiful, I forget what it was called, like golden water or something like that. And they would make these huge, big glass jugs of it and play music for it and all this kind of stuff. It was really, really neat. But before we get into it, we're going to say hello to the panel. We are short, one member as of right now, but Karen B will be joining us a little bit later. So we're going to start off saying hello to Mr. Kyle Adams. Kyle, what kind of research have you done on water, sir?
I've been really wanting to get around to doing the picture one where you put like a picture underneath water and freeze it and then like watch it freeze and see how well it remembers the picture. I've heard of that one. I haven't quite done that one myself yet, but yeah, when it comes to like water, the main experiment I tend to think about is the one about putting the ice cube in. Okay, how much water is going to get displaced when this ice cube melts, and you know, kind of throwing the whole thing at global warming and stuff like that. Yeah, just shows you just what kind of ridiculous lies are out there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I know I did one experiment with water where you freeze it, but you keep it very still. So the water actually doesn't freeze until it starts moving. So it can be below the freezing temperature. And as I opened the door, it jostled a little bit. And as soon as it gets a little movement, it'll flash freeze instantly. It's really, really neat. You got to show that to your children, Kyle. Yeah. You put just a cup in there and you let it freeze, but You make sure you don't let anything move. You don't move the refrigerator at all. You don't touch it. And then when you go to open that, you can actually watch it. You're probably going to jostle it enough just by opening the door. But if you watch real quick, you'll actually see the water turn from a liquid to a solid right before your eyes, like that.
That's
It's
what's
really,
cool.
really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I could do that with my fridge without jostling it too much.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. House
yeah,
full of
especially
children.
I've got one of those roll-out freezers, and so you pull out the drawer, so that's like next to impossible with that. But
Yeah.
if I had
Yeah.
just like a door on it, that'd be a little bit easier. When it comes to water, one of the things that I've been thinking about recently was how weird it is with salt when it comes to like making homemade ice cream, and how you have to have like your bag of like liquids and stuff it like next to salt to help it freeze faster or something like that. And I always thought that was like, that's so strange, because you put salt on water to keep it from freezing, but salt makes water colder, so it makes it freeze faster. What? And so that's just kind of mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Water is one of those, it's probably the weirdest element. When you really break it down and start thinking about it, we have it in all three forms in the natural world. And there's not many things that we have that are all three forms in the natural world. Its boiling point and its freezing point are relatively very close compared to all the other types of liquids and, metals and stuff like that. The boiling points of metals is just ridiculous, Whereas
Yeah.
water, it's really not that far off from its freezing point.
I think out of all the different elements that I'm aware of, water might be the easiest to manipulate. And I think that's what makes it so like such a valuable resource when it comes to like different experiments.
Yeah. Good thing there's a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
All right. And next up, we have Mrs. Cammie Nodell. I know Cammie's done quite a few tests and experiments with water. How are you doing today, Cammie?
I am doing good. Kyle, they consider in science, even though it's not universal, meaning it doesn't dissolve everything, but it is considered the universal solvent, that more things dissolve in water than any other liquid, or again, it has the ability to dissolve over anything. So it's considered the universal solvent. It has so many mysteries. Janice, and I wish I was looking for it. She said she had sent it to me, and I can't find it, but we watched it over at her house the other night. A video on water where they were going it backwards and with electrolysis, and he was getting the hydrogen but not the oxygen out of it, and saying, why doesn't this work in reverse? You have the Pete and Pete experiments that sometimes it gets silly but are fascinating. Living water in the Bible. Mentioned in the Bible, the living waters. I don't know about, I know that in the Jewish religion, the mikvah, that they take the ritual bath, and one of the requirements for it is that it has living water, which means it's not just tap water. They have a source of living water, stream water. And living water biblically is considered like a fresh stream water that's not brackish, not backwater, it has to be a fresh, clean flow of water. So I do know that is one of the elements, like religiously, as far as calling it living water.
I'm thinking
as
about
far as
the Dead Sea itself, and
the Dead Sea itself, and I have been there. It is amazing, and it feels dead. And they talk about the living waters of Jerusalem draining into the Dead Sea and then into the Mediterranean, and that's interesting, representing again the two different worlds. The Dead Sea, I've floated in the Dead Sea. It's amazing. And
there's an old lesson about that has always stood out like really, really strong to me, and that is that there's a huge difference between the Red Sea and the Dead Sea. Okay, the Red Sea, it continues, like whatever it gets, it also gives. It's continually giving. But the Dead Sea, everything it gets, it just holds on to it, and so and so it ends up being kind of a parable of, when you get, you got to give, and if you don't do that, then you become dead. And so
I think that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful. Another whole other topic for a show would be where waters meet waters. I don't know if anybody else through the studies have looked at the confluences, but one of the things I noticed when looking at the picture of the blue marble is how evenly blue all of the oceans and everything are around and how it's so uniform. But if you actually look and see where the Atlantic meets the Pacific, there are different colors. If you do like type in anything where the Yellow River meets, where the Green River meets, where the Rhine meets, which Rhine is a white river. Most of these rivers are named because of elements and things that cause the waters to be different colors and that. So when you see the two rivers merge together, you see a straight demarcation line. I don't know if this is easy for you, Zach, but if you could even pull up like where the Atlantic meets the Pacific on a browser, easy. That's not so extreme, but this will show you how extreme it is and how different the waters are. We were talking about, I have a hot tub here, and maintaining a hot tub here in South Carolina is very, very different than in Colorado. Just the water starts much harder in Colorado. Different mineral content. It feels differently. It holds chemicals differently. It lives differently. The rocks that grow in that. But do you see how much of it is aligned on these pictures? It's
That's
people,
wild.
The different bodies of water each have their own personalities, their own plants growing in them, their own silts feeding into them, the landscapes that flow into them. And people seem to think all water is like this blue color, but it's not. It's remarkable. It's magical.
Oh yeah, it has all kinds of different colors. So yeah.
We were talking again about it has all of the colors. Waters, if you go to it, you can find all of the colors in the water. We were talking about the experiments Bob and I used to do. We would take a pair of nice fine Bose headphones and put them on a 5-gallon water jug.
A glass
and
jug.
play a glass jug, and people would come over, and it's crazy because at our house we drank we treated our water with a why can't I think of the name of it, the Ellis machine. We did the Ellis water, and so we were always distilling and making up.
What's an LS machine?
It's like a distiller that energizes it with UV light and that. And so it's like a nice fresh, it's the lightest, most delicious water. The thing about it is it makes so much discharge that you have a lot of runoff. So we would make it when we were filling the hot tub. And from a couple of, from basically 20 gallons of water that we would make in 5-gallon jugs, with the runoff from that, we would be able to fill the giant. I don't know how many gallons it was, but it was like a 7-person hot tub. So it was not a small one. It was a Bob-sized hot tub. But we would use the runoff and run it out the window. It was funny, out the screen window upstairs, and run the runoff and fill. So that was our hot tub change, was making the distilled water. And then we started doing experiments on it. We would do freezing. When we did freeze it, the energized water would freeze and make heavy spikes up in the water. So you would open it up and it would be like spikes going up. It was remarkable. As far as Dr. Emoto, that we're going to go into, Zach, you've done one of his most famous experiments. It's not water, but Mr. Good Times for All. Kyle, do you know how Zach got his nickname?
No.
This story feeds into tonight's show perfectly. Good Times for All has another nickname. It's Too Nice for Rice. And what they all did was they all did the rice experiment. And do you know what the rice experiment is, Kyle?
The rice experiment is where you I think I remember Jaron talking about this one time, where he had like a bottle of rice and he like yelled at it, and then the other one he just said like really nice things to it, and the one that he like
It's frozen. Kyle's frozen. I don't know if we're still going. Is the show still going?
Yeah,
Is it just Kyle?
Show's still up. It's just Kyle, I believe.
Okay, well, we'll finish for Kyle. So yeah, Jaron yelled at one. He talked nicely to another, and the other he ignored. And a lot of people have done this experiment. And the one that you yell at, generally your rice turns brown and gross and gray.
It'll get moldy real
get
fast.
moldy, and that the one you ignore just kind of goes to a dismal color, but it doesn't do much. It just kind of grays a little bit and doesn't look very bright. But the one talked with love in that tends to stay clean. It's amazing. So just the words that you throw at it and the emotions you give it seems to change the rice. But they all did the rice experiment, but Zach was supposed to yell at his rice and turn his rice brown. But Zach would not yell at his rice because his rice did not do anything to Zach. It did no harm to Zach, and it did nothing that deserved to be yelled at. But Zach could not turn his rice brown. He could keep it creamy white, but he was too nice for rice. So his too nice for rice is literally an Emoto experiment, which is he failed
Yeah, it
because
just
he could not.
it didn't it when I was sitting there trying to be mean to the rice, I was like laughing on the inside, like I can't, like, you're a jerk. You know. But no, it was not, it didn't feel right. It just felt silly to me, and I knew if I didn't put actual intent into it, it wasn't going to work. So I was like, okay, yeah, this rice didn't do anything to me. I feel silly trying to be mean to it because it's just not coming out that way. So yeah, I failed the experiment, but I still have the rice, all 3 jars, and they're all still white.
Oh
It still
wow.
hasn't molded, and I did this back in, I think, 2017,
Uh-huh.
20, maybe, yeah, it had to be like 2017.
And
Yeah,
this is like after you've cooked it.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. You cook it and everything, and then
There's like water in it because dry rice can last for a long time.
for a real long time. No, it has turned kind of a yellowish color to it,
But you've ignored
and the
it for years
water's
now.
kind of come out of it a little bit, but it still hasn't molded at all.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild.
Nice for rice.
But but that you can transfer into the water and into the other things. What they have found with not just Dr. Emoto, but with many scientists in that emotion and people and experiments, and even they have one of the experiments that you're going to play tonight, Zach. I believe I don't believe I had to cut it for copyright, but you're going to show different people freezing different slides, and the water vibrates to them. In other words, you can tell who froze the water droplet. It's water from the exact same source, came from the same place. They're all starting with the same water, but you can tell who did the experiment by how the water solidified. And
Big shout out to Austin over at the Melodome, member for 3 months. Much love and respect to the GLOBEBUSTERS crew. Well, thank you, brother. Much love.
Thank you all so much for the support you give us. It's so much appreciated, and some days it's so hard, but I feel like we have to carry on to what we started, and this is what my husband would have wanted us to do, so we appreciate it so much. It means the world to us. The water is something, again, that we've done long before we understood or saw that the earth was flat. We understood how much there is the miracle of water. You can look at the different, you can get anywhere between 60 and 90% on what percent of your body is water, depending on where you look and how they break it up. But it doesn't matter. Still, the majority of your body is water. Water is all around us. It's the one thing that's needed for life. And I would have to say, even with RockSnap, for all types of life, because I
for them to
everything
grow
in the life. Yes.
Yeah.
And while if you were to Google and say, are rocks or is water alive, they would say technically no, it doesn't meet our definition of it. I say expand exactly what is their definition of life, and why don't you look at the qualities and, again, the memory, the personality of water before deciding. I'm not so sure. In fact, I would very much lean towards it is living.
Yeah, it's still probably the most intriguing element. It just has so many mysteries, and I mean, I'm sure they all do, really, but water is, so abundant. It's been around us forever. We use it every single day of our lives, and yet there's so much about it that will just boggle your mind and amaze you about this substance. It really is. When you get into really researching water and what we've learned about it so far, when you start looking at it, you're really thinking, are we just scratching the surface of what's possible, of what we can actually do with this stuff? And I think the answer to that is yes. I think it's going to be a very important part of our technology one day in the future.
I think it's just really fascinating just how much it can uplift your mood. I'm not talking about just like drinking it or anything like that, but like if you're ever feeling really down, you just go take a shower, just take a shower and just let that water just run over you. And like it really does uplift your whole mood. Yeah.
When I'm stumped and I'm thinking on something,
Yeah.
I'll go into the shower and I'll ask a question. And usually before the shower comes out, I'll have a couple ideas that just came out of nowhere.
There's a lot of ideas that just come to you right in the shower.
Yeah. Yeah. So this
I won't even-
video,
yeah.
oh, go ahead, Camera Joe.
Yeah, I was going to say, I won't even mention the amount of times in this past year that I've thought that I've lost my mind, gotten insane, and there's no reason, and I've walked down to the river. I've walked down to the river. It's grounding.
Yeah. Yeah, water is very soothing. So this is Dr. Masaru Emoto. And this is a really interesting channel. It's called the Water Peace Project. And it's got like Dr. Emoto's birthday water ceremony in here and things like that, where he's actually, there's only 13 videos. Some of them are a little bit longer, but it's really, really a great playlist to just go through and, yeah, you'll learn just all kinds of really neat stuff. But this gentleman right here is the one who started doing these experiments where he was freezing water. He would play certain music, or he'd play music for water and then flash freeze it and see what it would look like. Or he would say things to it, just speak the word love and freeze it, and it would make this beautiful crystalline snowflake. And then, he would say other words that weren't so nice, or he'd play, heavy metal music, and it wouldn't be a snowflake at all. It'd be this distorted. It looks ugly. It really does. And he's showing how all these different things around us, just speaking to somebody in a nice way will affect them in a certain way compared to speaking to them in a harsh manner. We are water. We're like made up so much of water, and what isn't water is pretty much crystal. So we're like living water ourselves. But I'm going to go ahead and play this. It's only 2 minutes long, but this is his first memory of water and the wisdom that his mother passed down to him, that he didn't realize it was such great wisdom until later on in his life when he started really studying water. So I'm going to play this and let him tell you his story.
The first memory I have of water is from when I was 5 years old, and it was this experience when I almost drowned in the ocean. I was born and raised near Tokyo Bay with my family. It was a 10-minute walk to the ocean, and we would run down to the ocean in our underwear to go for a swim. I was very comfortable swimming and interacting with the ocean water. But one day I swam far out into a very deep spot in the ocean where I was unable to touch the bottom. I became frightened and began to struggle to swim ashore. The more I struggled, the quicker I began to drown. I thought I was going to die, and I almost gave up on swimming to shore. It was then a passing boat came to my rescue. I was thankful to be alive, but very scared, and I ran home crying. When I came home, I was crying to my mother. I told her I almost drowned, and I was still very frightened from my near-death experience. My mother then told me, "Masaru, when you're surrounded by water, you should never try to fight against the water, but rather relax and let water take you wherever it will take you. You are always safe with water, This has a lot of philosophical meaning.
That's interesting.
And now later in my life, I understand what my mother was telling me. You.
Yeah, think about how like bodies when they die they tend to float, right?
Yeah.
And that's one thing I can think about here. But yeah, I'm just thinking about like all the Disney movies that have been really like pushing this a lot recently. Frozen 2, for example, they talked about how water has memory, but then I also think about like Moana and how like the water in Moana had like this life to it that would continually aid her and help her and was like an active character throughout the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that um Disney really does well is teach the esoteric stuff.
They teach
And
us the truth as myth,
yeah.
plausible
Yeah,
deniability.
that's one thing I learned watching Disney growing up. Like, I still remember one episode of DuckTales, the one with Scrooge McDuck and his three nephews, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, that would go on adventures and he would try to stay the richest duck in the world, right? Well, he was searching for a treasure and nobody was able to even open any of the doors in this building. They knew the building was there and it was sealed shut and nobody, and this one little she grew up as a little girl and her dad was like an archaeologist, and her father taught her to sing like an opera singer, so she knew all the different harmonic scales and all the different notes, and she was able to open the door with sound. Using her voice, she was able to unlock all these different locks that she came across because she had that knowledge of sound, and that was how you open the doors, using just nothing but frequency and vibration. Yeah, and that was, in a cartoon. But I mean, that's possible. That's that ancient knowledge that gets passed down. And there she is. Welcome, Miss Karen B.
Hi. Sorry for my tardy.
No, not at all.
We still love you, I promise.
Dinner
Thanks.
with the family always comes first. That's
Yeah,
important.
it was a little late today.
It happens. So we are talking about the living water and Dr. Emoto.
Nice. I actually watched a really awesome video today that's like a year old that somebody made about water and structuring water. Pretty much the same thing you guys are talking about now. Living water, he brought up Emoto, Matsu, whatever his name is. The Japanese guy, I can't say it right now for whatever reason.
Yeah, Kazu. Or that's his mother's name, Kazu.
Oh,
This is a quote that when he was very young, he almost drowned out in the ocean, and he was saved by a boat, and he ran home to his mother, and this is what she told him: when you are surrounded by water, you should never try to fight against the water, but rather relax and let water take you wherever it will take you. You are always safe with water.
Have you seen any of those videos of the babies swimming? Like
Mm-hmm.
little infants learning how to swim? And yeah.
It's like that's where they're supposed to be almost.
Yeah, they're not afraid of the water at all, and they just kind of like get right up and go. And yeah, it kind of they're not resisting, they're not panicking and freaking out, because I think that definitely tends to happen is people when they're swimming, when they panic and freak out, that's not quite the natural response. When that happens, you tend to sink.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of run out of air really quickly and you sink. But if you kind of relax and you have that kind of confidence with the water, then it's like there's no resistance. You just kind of float.
Yeah, you just kind of bob up and down in the water. Yeah,
Take a deep breath and just relax, and yeah, the water just is your friend.
But yeah, this is a very interesting playlist right here. It's Dr. Emoto himself, Masaru. I think that's how you say his name.
mm-hmm.
And then it just goes through, and there's some live stuff of him doing like water ceremonies. It's got a couple other videos with other people. But yeah, it's just a really neat playlist. It's by Water Peace Project. Only 824 subscribers, but a very neat playlist to go check out about Dr. Masaru. We're not going to check all those out today, though.
But we will have some of the pictures, more of the things, and showing the structures, because like we did cymatics last week, and we've done crystalline and organization, I think we're going to start to see a pattern of the same beautiful sacred geometry created perfectly when things are in harmony with resonance. And when they're out of resonance, you'll see like more of a mixture, like you'll see rocks messed up as opposed to crystalline. Again, you'll see the same pattern repeating of life, the pattern of life.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about like the power of the ocean right now, and about like, yeah, when you stand on the beach and you can feel it. There's like a real powerful presence in the water, and yeah, and I think
The
about
waves
like
feel
it
like a
has
heartbeat.
personalities. It has like personalities right there within the atmosphere and the wind, and yeah, it's not. There's no. So there's a reason why they often like personify it, like in Lord of the Rings or something like that, where you'll see like horses running in the water, kind of a thing. And I'm thinking about like Fantasia or something like that, where you see like Poseidon, like, you know, in the water, and kind of, yeah, it's got like characters to it. And so that's kind of what they're doing, is they're kind of personifying the moods of water.
Yeah, water, it does, especially the oceans. They have their own, like you said, they have their own character. And I don't know if it's the videos I watch, maybe, because it's usually not the nice videos I watch about the ocean. It's the ones where this giant oil tanker got, split in half by this giant wave and stuff like that. And the stuff that I usually look at. And it's just, for one, it's enormous. The bodies of water out there across this realm are just, I don't think we can fathom how big they are with our, tiny little bodies and our point of view and our perspective. When you look at it on a map, it doesn't know justice. But I don't think unless you go out there and actually, sail it or cross it. I mean, these bodies of water are, I couldn't even imagine looking in every direction and not seeing land anywhere.
Yeah. And when being out in the deep ocean, and when you're seeing like 30-foot waves or something like that, that would be terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah. So those people who work out there, I give them all the props in the world. I couldn't do it. There was an experiment I wanted to do about measuring the Earth's electric field when Effie Core was around. And like, oh, well, maybe we could set that up, blah, 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 blah. I was like, well, someone else is going to have to do it, because the best place to do it is out on the ocean, and you ain't getting me out on the ocean. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about like, the whole story of like the Savior saying, "Peace, be still," speaking to the water, and the water obeys, kind of a thing. It's just like, how could they do that if, like, he's speaking to it as an object that will obey. It can hear and it can listen to him, kind of a thing. And yeah, that kind of, if it couldn't obey, there's no point in speaking to it.
Yeah. All right. So this next video, Cammie, do you remember anything about this one? This is one Cammie found for us. The Soul of Water Project is the name of the channel. That's a neat one. And 9 years ago, they were saying water holds memory. This is research from the Aerospace Institute of the University of Stuttgart in Germany. Cammie may have stepped away for a moment. Okay, it's only 2:49. I'm going to go ahead and play it, and let me know if you guys want me to stop it anywhere.
Okay, you got me running. You're going to do just fine with it. I was attempting to run to the little girl's room, and we'll try it again during a video. But I'm back temporarily.
Okay. Well, you go do that, and we're going to play this video.
To what extent is water capable of picking up information? What does it perceive? And how does it remember it over time?
The Aerospace Institute in Stuttgart has discovered a relatively simple way of making the structure of a drop of water visible. The researchers have had their efforts rewarded by insights into a very beautiful world. Each drop has a face of its own, unmistakable and unique. Why are the individual drops so different from one another?
Wow.
That's pretty trippy.
That is pretty trippy. Let me go back a hair and get this. Move your finger. So this is all from one person. They're not the exact same, but they're very similar. And then look at that, how similar they are, but how different they are from the other ones taken from other people.
Kind of like a fingerprint or something like that, just being in their presence.
That's amazing. I didn't think it. He didn't say that they were ordered to think about anything, or he just take a drop and put it on here, right? Let me go back and listen to this again, because yeah, that's wild.
Simple way of making the structure of a drop of water visible. The researchers have had their efforts rewarded by insights into a very beautiful world. Each drop has a face of its own, unmistakable and unique. Why are the individual drops so different from one another?
Wow.
Do you
So
understand that? Where they put the water in and then they take a drop out, and each drop, like a hologram, if you take a piece off the hologram and each hologram does the whole thing, each droplet of the water that you take out from where the flower was in is going to show the flower pattern. And they're going to get it to repeat over and over again. He's going to show you a different type of flower
look
here.
at
And
this
this is
one. Yeah.
this is the video I was talking about earlier when I sat there and said that even just the researcher itself is going to affect it. Each researcher you would be able to identify by
This
them
is
working with the
why
water. Mm-hmm.
alchemy was so important. And when they changed to chemistry, you know, if you're
Putting
making medicine for
software, right?
somebody, yeah, you're making medicine for somebody, you don't know them, you don't care about them, you're having a bad day, you know, you and your significant other are fighting or whatever, and you're sitting there making the medicine and you're not putting any love or care or see, that doesn't take place in alchemy. In alchemy, you make sure to be in the right state of mind when you're working on it and doing these things because you're aware that that is putting things into that structure that you're making. You know, that medicine that that person's making isn't filled with love and care. You know, like the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that your mom made for you. You can't recreate one of those. It'll never taste as good as the way mom used to make it. It just doesn't because it doesn't have that love ingredient in there that mom gave it. You know, it's amazing how much we leave behind with every little thing we touch. We really do have this amazing gift and this power to manipulate the world around us. That's why it's always so important to, you know, try to be a good person and not just a good person, but try to be happy.
And don't be a grouch when you cook.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But
Yeah,
that,
if I'm in a bad mood or a funky mood, my food doesn't come out as good.
yeah, it's weird.
It's a fact. This
Yeah.
also makes you reminisce a little bit about the Cleve-Baxter experiments. I don't know if anybody remembers the Cleve-Baxter experiments, but that's where he ran the polygraphs on the plants and got them to react to different things, like even thinking and holding a lighter in front of when the plants would set off the polygraph. Are you familiar with that, Kyle? You have a blank look on your face.
Am I familiar with what?
Cleve-Baxter and the experiments he did with plants in a polygraph machine and taking the electrical impulses and that off of plants reacting to different things. So they would react.
He put a plant through a lie detector test to see
Yes, he
how it
did.
would respond.
Yes.
I haven't heard of this. It sounds really fun.
And it did. It changed his whole way of looking at plants and looking at life in general. And that what he did notice is that, like, if you walked up with the intent to with a lighter to think you're going to burn the leaves, the plant would spike on the polygraph machine. They got them reacting to different things and people around them. But what was really fascinating, I mean, the whole experiment was fascinating, and that plant is still alive and takes up the whole room now. But what's really fascinating is that I just lost it. It just was there. It was really, really fascinating, though. It was there.
I've heard of the concept of like punishing your plants before,
Oh,
like with some bushes
no.
like that won't produce
Yeah.
fruit. I'm told like the what you're supposed to do is take like a stick and go and beat the bush, and after you beat the bush, then it'll start producing fruit for you.
No, and that's true. And people not beating it, that probably won't work, but they do respond to people giving them love and people talking the plants grow better. But what they did find out is they were doing different experiments to how plants reacted. So what they did is they would take little shrimp, briny shrimp, and have it, and they would be in a building and set on a timer, and they would drop on a timer the briny shrimp into a fryer and fry them, right? And when that was about to happen, the plants got upset every time, right? But if there was a person in the room with them, they didn't care. In other words, if anytime there was a human around, things like they would react to all different stimuli, but if there was a person around, they would react
to that person.
To that person. It was like the contrast that it's like, think of a dog that being around other dogs or animals, they're interested in playing, but as soon as a person or their person is around, they don't want anything to do with it. Like all of their attention goes there. So the thing that they did with plants, and that was the fact that they would pay attention to everything around them. But when people entered into their area, all of a sudden, that was the number one, like it overrode everything else. The energy that we put out seemed to override energy that everything else put out because they were testing it in all different scenarios.
I know my gardens used to be like people would stop and take pictures of my gardens before Flat Earth. My gardens were because I was practicing alchemy and I was really into, canning and learning all that kind of stuff. But my gardens were like my church. I really took a lot of care and put a lot of love and intentions into my garden. And they were just gorgeous. They were beautiful. All the plants were big and healthy, and the fruit was big and bountiful. But I noticed that the year I found Flat Earth and started putting a lot more time into researching and testing and experimenting and stuff, that my gardens have never been the same.
I hear you there.
It doesn't matter. I watered them just as much. The seasons were, not bad seasons or anything, but my gardens did not get that love and attention that I was giving them before, so they just didn't produce as much. It's really that simple. It's crazy when certain people look at it that way. They're like, well, that can't be that way. The more I love the plant, the more fruit it's going to give me. Come on, it's a plant, right? Well, no, that's very true. It is very true. And yeah, gardening taught me so much about this kind of stuff before I actually learned this kind of stuff.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does anybody ever do these tests with distilled water?
Yeah. Yes, they do. They do it with distilled, and they've done it with all types. Dr. Emoto has done it with different types of water, and he usually does distilled. I don't know if they're doing it in here, but Dr. Emoto has used distilled in his.
So, are they freezing the water? Is that how they're getting like the images to show up? Like
in
how
Dr. Emoto's thing, I'm sorry, Kyle. In Dr. Emoto's thing, though, is he looking for memory, or is he just looking for it to respond to the human influence?
He's done both. He's done several tests. In other words, he calls himself a water researcher. So he's done experiments on emotion, different on like the different geometry patterns. He's hit different areas with it.
I'm curious. So, because
the particulates could. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because I've had this conversation with Ben Balderson, because I talk about all kinds of stuff on my coffee talk show, and this topic has come up, and he suggests that a lot of the water memory is actually in the salts and the minerals in the water is what is actually carrying the memory, and not just the water itself.
I could see
I
that.
don't know. It's possible, but
I mean, it makes
I
sense to
don't
me
know. I don't
knowing
think
what
it's
we know.
everything though. Right, but I don't know if it's everything because I know that they have stuff with distilled.
Well,
And
that's why I
again,
was
if you look
wondering.
at
Yeah.
right, and
Yeah.
when you look at even how they make, I do know. I mean, one of my favorite things is when they make snowflakes, the perfect reproduced snowflakes in laboratory, and the person that perfected that, his magic ingredient was electricity, which makes sense if you think of thunderstorms or, again, the conditions when it snows even. It's colder that the amount of electricity in the air. But I don't, you think of crystallization and that, I don't know, Karen. I think it's going to affect the patterns you get and it's going to work together. You're going to get different with distilled and with a living water, something that's not have every mineral and life sucked out of it. But the distilled still seems to do some remarkable things. I know a lot of the stuff we did was with the distilled water, and again, it held the sweetness of the music. We had so many people come over and even test the things in, where we would do the 2 cups next to each other, the challenge, and say, we're not crazy. This is like extreme. And the
Big
only
shout
difference we
out
made
to Murray Cole over on Rockfin. Tipped $100. Thank you so much, Murray.
Wow. That's
Thank
amazing.
you, Murray.
Thanks
Says
for
I've missed.
supporting GLOBEBUSTERS, Murray.
Yes, absolutely. Says I've missed several live episodes, so I'm glad I caught this one.
We're glad you're here. Thank
Glad
you
you
for
could
coming.
join us. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Okay,
One
we're
of
gonna
the
finish. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things I've been thinking about is like the memory span. Like, yes, water might have some memory to it, but how long does that memory last? Is it like an etch and sketch where we can have one thing, but then after a certain time period, all of a sudden it shakes up and you lose it, kind of a thing, because water is continually changing. And so with the salts that you're mentioning here, if it's adding to it, then that would give it a little bit longer lasting memory. At least that's my thoughts. Is by itself, it's not going to have a long memory, but when every time you add something to it, that's going to help extend the memory until that gets removed or something.
Big shout out to Richard B. Thank you,
Shout out to
brother.
Richard B. Whoop.
Oh, gifted 5 GLOBEBUSTER members.
Yeah. Miss you, Richard. Can't wait till I think he said he'd be coming back if there was another Flattoberfest this year, so
He did.
that'd be awesome to
Yeah.
see Richard again from way across the pond.
Be nice to see him at Utah, at the Utah Water Fest, which is going to be this coming on the 2nd. Yeah.
Really quick. By the way,
this
happy
weekend.
leap year, everybody. Happy 29th of February. Happy birthday to those leap year babies. I think we're at 76% waning moon. So getting smaller, going towards the new moon again. Time is going so quickly.
Yeah, I just read somewhere what the March moon is called. I know April is the pink moon. I forget what the March is for. At least here in the US, it's the pink moon because all the pink flowers that grow on the eastern coast in April. Something like that. Okay.
So, Karen, you can tell Ben that it's been, over 10 years since we were doing the experiments, but we did quite a few experiments with different freezings, different patterns, and
well, we should do it again.
Music to it and that. Yeah, we can. And we did all of our experiments with distilled water at our house. In other words, people were doing it with all different, but we're using the the Richard Ellis energized distilled water is what we were using in our experiments.
What do you mean energized distilled water?
In other words, the Richard Ellis, it was one that it distilled it, but it also, when it made a discharge too, you had a lot of runoff. So it made a very light feeling water. It was remarkable, but it ran it through a UV light at ultraviolet along with distilling it. And that's what he said, energized it somehow. But I don't know. It was good water.
Well, I'd like to do some experiments again with water. I think it would be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it'd be fun too, and even doing like the river water and different living waters along.
Like use water from your river, water from my creek, distilled water.
I did quite a bit of what do they call that? Is it electrolysis, where you put the 2 little things down in there, and the cleanest water I found was up in New Mexico, Bonita Springs. I think it was called. And it looked like distilled water. Like Fuji water and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Ugh, it's got like an 1/8 inch of black tar stuff at the top of it
Oh, Fuji
when you
water
do
tastes
that.
horrible. I never understood why anybody bought that crap. That is
Oh
like the
man.
worst tasting water I've ever experienced outside of San Jose, California tap water.
I like the smart water though. That one tastes good to me.
I like the water at the top of the mountains. Again, your cold mountain streams is unbelievably remarkable.
Okay, so we're gonna finish this one. Remember, this is about them
I think they've
giving
got sorry, I
water.
just had to do a shout out real quick to I think it's Find a Well. There's like a place where like a website where you can just find a well and it'll tell you where you can find natural springs so you can get like fresh from a spring.
Nice. Yeah, I know those deep wells have some amazing stuff.
Totally free. Just totally free, fresh from spring water.
So yeah, we're gonna finish up this video, and he was saying at the beginning how he was having people in an auditorium just take a drop of water, and they were doing it at the same time, he said. So everybody had a little thing.
I have a stupid thought. I just am curious. I don't know why it hasn't occurred to me before, but you drill for water, and when they find it is how deep you have to drill. Is there places where you would not be able to drill and get water, or is it always a matter of how deep you have to drill?
Well,
Is the water table under everything?
no, the water tables are different in different places, but
Okay.
I know like 400 feet for the most part goes through a lot of bedrock. Like here in South Carolina, a lot of the wells, the deep wells, are like, I've heard of 2 people having them, and one was 300 feet and the other one was 400 feet.
Somebody's got a 400-foot well?
Yeah.
That's a deep well.
That's very
Yeah.
deep.
They have those up in Indiana too. They go actually through the limestone bedrock, because Indiana has like 300 feet of topsoil or something like that before you hit bedrock. But there's also a water table within
Wait,
that
bedrock?
soil.
How do giant trees grow if there's bedrock? Oh, oops, I don't know.
But yeah, it's like 21 feet down, you hit water. Even though it's nothing but dirt, there's still water down there. There's like a lake or underground rivers.
Oh, now we're getting into earthquakes and talking about how like
I know there
earthquake
was
waves.
there was an article too that came out a while ago about scientists saying that they discovered that there were massive underground oceans
Mhm.
under the
Under the
earth.
ocean, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're talking about like P waves and S waves and how only one of them can travel through water, and that's why they're claiming that the Earth has a liquid core because of the way that waves do it. I'm like, okay, guys, if these earthquake waves prove the Earth is a globe, how do they get through the ground, the water table? How do they get through the water table? Seriously.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I did look up my question too while you're doing it. This is pretty funny. Just again, this is science for you, because of the way they write it. Water wells can range from 100 to 500 feet deep, depending on the local geology and groundwater conditions. In some areas, you might find water at just 30 feet. Well, if they can range from 100 to 500 feet, why not 30 feet? In others, you might need to drill over 1,000 feet. And then it says
the water is different. You know, if you get it at 22 feet up in Indiana, northern Indiana, where all the water level is, you're going to have water that might, you know, it's not going to be as clean. You might have sulfur deposits and stuff like that. But if you get the 400-foot well, your water is crystal clear, cold. It's like the purest water out there. That's why they do the different ones.
Well, they go on to say, though, if the depth of your well is between 25 and 110 feet, you should use a deep well jet pump. And if it's between 110 and 400 feet, use a 4-inch submersible. And if it's between 400 and 500. So there are wells that are 25 feet because they tell you what pumps to use, but they tell you that they can range from 100 to 500 feet. So I just thought that was a good scientific fact that they, again, they write their lead sentence, they demolish it in the next sentence. So I thought that was typical. I'm saying it could be between this and that. And at 25 feet,
Yeah, I
Some are
know a
just
guy
really
who
deep.
has 2 wells. He has one for his house that's only 22 feet deep, and then he has
Mhm.
one like a couple acres back for his peach trees. He has like, I don't know, 40 peach trees, and he had a 4-inch, 400-foot well put in for that one because he didn't want to run his other well dry. So he went down a lot
Right.
deeper and got a much bigger, yeah, so he had access to more
Yeah.
water.
And I get all of that, and we're boring people to death. I just love it the way that science says it could be between this and that, and then starts it with a different number because that's typical science pages for you. It could be between 100 and 400, and it starts at 25.
Yeah. So there's an app. It's called the Find a Well app, and you can find all kinds of places near you where you can go get that free well water. It makes a big difference, especially when the city water has got all those chemicals in it, and yeah, sometimes it's really nasty. And I don't know about you guys, with my house water, just the tap is just loaded and loaded with calcium, just like tons of it. Really hard water.
I can't drink city water. I end up spitting it out. It's got to be filtered at least somewhat. I remember because I didn't grow up, I was living out in the country before I went on my walkabout, and we had a great well. It was awesome. Just the cleanest water. And then I went up to visit my mom, and she had city water. She still lived out in the country, but it was, city water from the water tower. And as soon as I put it in my mouth, I thought I was drinking water out of a pool. There was that much chemicals inside of it. I was like, "How do you drink this, Mom?" She's like, "Oh, I don't even what? It's water." I was like, "No, it's not just water. That
You can
stuff is
taste the
like,
difference. Yeah.
yeah, super
Taste the
tasting
difference.
different."
Yeah. Your body gets used to certain flavors. And so you go from one place and yeah, some
Mhm.
people come over to your house and, oh man, your water's terrible. I was like, what are you talking about? It just tastes normal to me, and then you go to their place and, oh, that happens often.
All right, so we're gonna finish this. I just wanted to bring up the point. He was giving little slides to people and allowing them to put a drop of water on the slide all at the same time, and the images all came out different from the different people. And then when the people made multiple drops, their drops all appeared pretty similar, which is just amazing to me.
I'm still wondering exactly how they're seeing the images themselves. Like, how are they getting the water to turn white like that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, how are they doing that without like any kind of additive? Are they freezing the water or?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Here, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna play this. Karen, I'm gonna mute you. Okay.
Okay,
You
sorry.
sound like you're angry typing.
Put a different flower.
So they're assuming the water has a really long memory span there.
Yeah.
Will perhaps be a data medium carrying information to the world.
Bringer sozusagen in die Welt.
Yeah, that was
The
wild.
drops and then
Yeah.
discovered that
This part right here really blew me away.
Yeah,
The
I
same
think it's more
water.
of like a etch and sketch kind of memory span. It's there until you make sudden changes to it.
Yeah, the same water just dripped out by different people. And these are the differences that showed up. See, that's the kind of stuff I want to try. Like, how zoomed in is this, do you think? I mean, could we do this with the microscope we have?
Yeah, the first thing you got to find out is like how they're getting
I'm
the
thinking
image
so.
to show in the first place. Because yeah,
I have slides and that. I think we even have the stuff to set this up.
Yeah, that's interesting.
so I've seen water under a microscope and it just looks totally transparent, except for like right around the edges where like the refraction is kind of creating that line.
And then this one looks very similar to the beginning. Yeah, this is.
Is that the same one?
Yeah, it's the same one. We just watched that.
Yeah, they're different, but they're very similar. This one's, yeah, they're both 2-4. Okay. Well, never mind that one. And this is Kind and Safe Schools, Dr. Emoto's water experiment. And yeah, this goes more into the water crystal experiments. Proves that positive and negative words can change the shape of water molecules. Go ahead, Cami.
This one, I believe, is one of the longer ones. I think you just want to scoop through there for some
It's
visuals and some
2 minutes
beautiful.
long.
Oh, never mind. That's not the one I'm thinking of then. That one, go for it.
They kind of changed the color to it all.
So that's what Hitler looks like when you say it? I
I
mean, I
think
understand that the man was bad, but just the sound,
the
Hitler?
name of it, I think there might be like some connotations with it. Like the person who says it might have like a
Yes.
bad impression of it, and that kind of
Right.
impression gets put into it. But if you have a child say it who has no clue who Hitler
Yeah,
was,
Hitler!
I think it'd be a different story.
Yeah, that's
I
just,
just wanted to see that movie about the kid with imaginary friend of Hitler.
yeah, I
Never
guess
got around to seeing it.
intent.
That was on my list.
I guess if you asked a Nazi to say Hitler, it might look like a pretty snowflake,
Pretty
you know?
swastika.
Looks like it could be really fine jewelry.
Now, my question is it going to be different when you say joy compared to when I say joy?
I would think it would have to be. I would think it would have to be depending on who said it and their intention and feeling when
Yeah.
they said it. I think that last set of experiments shows you that. And again, saying a word is saying it.
I think it's
I
a
mean,
really
so
good
many
point.
words can have so many meanings. And again, your tone, your tone is everything.
Yeah. I think
Intonation.
just there's different voices out there. We all have our own unique individual voices. And so it's not like it's interesting how it's still the same despite the different voice that's saying it. And so that tells me there might be a lot of intention that's going into it. And even just the word itself, joy, there's different speeds at which we say it. Joy, you know what I mean? And so it's if it was the vibrations of the air, then you're going to be getting like different warped pictures that are going on. But it seems to be more about the intention that you put into it than the vibrations that are coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, I
I would think there
wonder
would
if
have
the
to be
vibrations are different with different intentions. You know, like you could say joy, but then you could say joy, you know, and it's all about that tone that you put into it. And like you said, the intention behind it. So it's not just that certain vibration, but maybe the frequency at which you're releasing that vibration.
Are you doing it with resonance? Is it again a harmonic? Is it a resonant frequency? You can say joy and not feel joy. Is it
Yeah.
really there? No.
Yeah. Okay, let's finish this one up. We got about a minute left. Wow, look at that. Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, Islam. But again, is that because the person saying it believes these to be beautiful things?
Or are they just
But if
perfect
somebody
snowflakes?
that was an atheist say these things, would it come out looking like Hitler? That's
Yeah,
my
I wish I had
question.
all the equipment to do like these perfect experiments to really expound on all of this, because I feel like it's just begging to be expounded on. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I think we're just scratching the surface of water.
Barely, yes.
Yeah. I see, with things like this, people love to show the results, but it's very rare that you see the process of getting those results. And yeah, that's kind of a huge issue. Even in like peer-reviewed articles, they all just focus on the results. Oh, well, this study says this, but it doesn't really show how that study led to that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this one
Yeah.
is easy to see how it got to it because these are like snowflakes. I mean, you see your perfect crystallization. They came from a super saturated slurry. So, and crystallized with very little resistance because they hold the resonance and harmony.
I
Oh, that's a
wonder if
test.
snowflakes look different that are created under different stars.
Oh,
I
yeah.
imagine they do. I imagine they do, along with, I'm sure that is a codependent coefficient along with the temperature and altitude and all those other fun ones. But you bet. Because
If I
again, I
could
know
try
through
this,
through the studies, they did say that, like, again, different things grow differently under the different alignments. And so that would only make sense.
if I could try this
Everything
myself, I
affects
would like to
everything.
have an
It's a
AI.
dance.
We could have an AI do some of the voices, and that way it's just a computer saying it versus a person saying it. And
No, that
seeing what the
changes out
difference are.
everything. So there's no, you're taking the emotion out of it.
Yeah. And so if you could
Maybe
change,
do that as one variable and see what happens when you take the emotion out of it.
yeah, I would really like to see what it would look like if it's just an
Mhm.
AI saying it. That'd be.
There's you fool. That's actually, go back to that picture. That's almost a meme or a thumbnail. Yeah, it looks like the world with it. You fool.
Yeah, I see it.
Don't believe that shit. Sorry.
Oh, that's good. That was a really nice video right there. Kind and safe schools. Oh, whoa. What do they do? Da, 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 da. Sorry, I'll look into this later. So yeah, folks, living water. I would really like to start testing some of this stuff, like we were just talking about. Seeing if you can't make a snowflake like that and say love, but with bad intentions, and see if it comes out differently. And
Oh yeah, like you did it with the rice and made the brown rice. You're gonna say love with bad intentions, Zach? I'm not buying it. We're gonna have somebody else say love with bad intentions.
well, yeah, but you know what I mean. Yeah, it's mind bending. This, and it changes your life. It really does. I think if I would have known that my thoughts and the things I said affected the world around me at a younger age, I would have been a lot more, a lot nicer to certain people. Because I know I'm, too nice for ice or this and that, but there's been people out there that got under my skin and I was not nice to at all. And I wonder if I could have handled that differently and made things better. I
I
don't,
like that. That's a message I needed to hear. We're dealing with some difficult people. Yeah, just don't let them get under your skin. You've got to keep that kind of mentality, that positive mentality, to not let them disrupt your flow.
yeah, absolutely. But I think that's going to do it for tonight's show, folks. Short one, little over an hour there. Yeah, a lot of the
Just a little
stuff they
wonderment
have
to
on
think
this,
about. Yeah.
presentations and stuff, like you saw Cam, we found there, a lot of people share the same images and videos and stuff like that. So it was a little harder going through and finding, just neat stuff to show you while we were talking about it. But yeah, I would love to try this. And this one right here, Masaru Emoto shares water wisdom. We're going to listen to this one more time for the people who came in a little bit late. I know we started this one near the beginning of the show, so we're going to play this one more time. It's the actual Dr. Emoto talking about his first memory of water and the wisdom that his mother passed down to him, that he realized at a much older age how wise the wisdom that she passed on to him was. So here we go.
The first memory I have of water is from when I was 5 years old, and it was this experience when I almost drowned in the ocean. I was born and raised near Tokyo Bay with my family. It was a 10-minute walk to the ocean, and we would run down to the ocean in our underwear to go for a swim. I was very comfortable swimming and interacting with the ocean water. But one day I swam far out into a very deep spot in the ocean where I was unable to touch the bottom. I became frightened and began to struggle to swim ashore. The more I struggled, the quicker I began to drown. I thought I was going to die, and I almost gave up on swimming to shore. It was then a passing boat came to my rescue. I was thankful to be alive, but very scared, and I ran home crying. When I came home, I was crying to my mother. I told her I almost drowned, and I was still very frightened from my near-death experience. My mother then told me, Masaru, when you're surrounded by water, you should never try to fight against the water, but rather relax and let water take you wherever it will take you. You are always safe with water. This has a lot of philosophical meaning for me, and now later in my life, I understand what my mother was telling me.
The water crystal of wisdom. See, now that one to me looked like a lot like the one we saw earlier that was, oh, what was it? Love or joy or one of them. It had the corners like this, but it didn't have this in the center. It was like, yeah, I don't know. Whether the word wisdom creates this or the person saying it the way that they perceive wisdom to be.
That one looks a lot like the Eternal one, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I remember seeing this one. It had the three like nodules right here, 1, 2, and 3, like that, going all the way around. It was hexed like that. Yeah, I would like to do some research into this, and not research, but testing, and experimentation. Not just research, but
I want to see
playing
their
with it.
setup and how they're doing it.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do about trying to get these recreated, and we'll see what actually is going on. Because, I'd love to ask hundreds of questions like we asked here tonight about their setups and, all that kind of stuff. Like I was saying, if you asked a Nazi to say Hitler, would it come out looking like that? Wisdom. I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about like doing the water making, or sorry, the crystal making slurry. And I wonder if, like, when you talk to the water, it can help arrange the crystals in different ways to get larger crystals, for example, and say, okay, water, I want you to go do this. I want you to organize that crystal so we can get nice large crystals, and just see if it helps arrange it better. I don't know.
Well, alrighty, we'll go around and let everybody let you know where we're going to be finding y'all next week until next show. Starting off with you, Kyle. What you got coming up this week?
I got the Utah Flat Earth Meetup, and I'm really excited about that. And so,
All right.
I have my camera out there. I'll be doing a whole bunch of videos if I can. And yeah,
That's in
so,
2 days, Saturday?
Yeah, it'll be Saturday. And so,
Very exciting. Are you going to be
Yeah.
going live at all or just doing a lot of
No.
recording?
I'm just going to do a lot of recording, and I'll just keep it that way. And yeah, it'll be really fun. They have great turnouts of those things. Last time they did it in a school, but I think they're doing it in a library this time. But yeah, great turnout with all that.
Awesome, man. Well, I hope it all goes well and the weathers treat you all kindly. All right.
Getting ready to snow, so anyone on their way, travel safely.
And next up, Mrs. Karen B. What we got going on this week?
Probably just the usual stuff.
I was heartbroken. There was no anti-religious scripture Saturday.
I know that was Jack. Jack canceled that. But then also I was not feeling good because I went through a forced detox this week. So, but I'm feeling better, so I'll probably get back to my regular grind, and of course I'll be live Monday morning for Coffee Talk. And hopefully we'll be back to anti-religious scripture study this Saturday with Jack.
Don't forget Tuesday nights.
And Tuesdays, of course, with Mark Sargent. And he'll be back to tell us how much fun he had at the at the Utah meetup. And he also showed me a bunch of stuff that he's bringing to give away. So, if you're going to the meetup, you'll have fun. Mark's going to bring a bunch of goodies, and it should be
He's
fun.
so awesome. I
Yeah.
love Mark.
Yeah.
Wish you guys weren't so on late on Tuesday nights. I got to get up early. On
I
Wednesday
know.
mornings, it sucks. I always listen to it the next day, but I don't get to hang out and chat. So it's
I
not
know.
as fun.
Oh yeah, we have to celebrate the NASA layoffs. They've been laying off a whole bunch of people on the Mars program. I was like, yeah. And so, yeah, just thought,
That's hilarious.
yeah.
And
Saw that,
Cammy.
like, they're making a difference. They're claiming it's because Congress can't get it together. I'm like, yeah, I wonder why Congress can't get it together with all these rodents on Mars and crabs on Mars. The crab on Mars was my favorite. But, yeah.
And Cammy.
And Cammy, I am here. I'm pretty much looking for inspiration, some purpose, and
Me
again,
too. Me
just,
too.
and some beauty and inspiration. So send some beauty, inspiration, and purpose my way, everybody. And you'll probably find me in the Iron Realm tomorrow night and back here next week. And hopefully out by the river digging for rocks. Or out on a road trip soon.
All right. And for me, you can find me Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. We'll be live tomorrow morning, 5 a.m. Eastern, over at freeworld.fm. It's a new free speech platform started by Billy Ray Valentine. Go over there and check it out. There's Wayne McCroy's over there. It's not all flat earthers. I know a lot of the people are on board with flat earth, but it's not their area of, what they talk about. But there's some big channels over there, some big people who bring some big crowds, and it's starting to grow. It's starting to grow, which is nice. We're seeing some traffic go through there, and it's free. So you can't beat that. freeworld.fm. Go ahead on over there
They
and
have
check
a
it out.
globe logo, but try not to look at that.
Yeah, I don't even look at that. They do have Sasquatch though on the front. Like as soon as you get into it,
Oh,
there's a
really?
big Sasquatch walking. Yeah,
That's
the
cool.
picture. Yeah. So yeah, go check out. Yeah, we talked to him about the logo, like, because he's been setting this up for years, and we went and talked to him about the logo. He's like, "Yeah, man, it's one of those logos that's like means that we cover everything." I was like, "I know," and the AE map people look at it and they're like, "What is that?" They have no idea what it is. So give it time. He might switch it up here.
Hmm.
Big shout out to Question the Answers. Another membership. Thank you so much. He says, "Thank you. Have a great night, GLOBEBUSTERS Tech." You have a great night as well. And yeah, you can catch Cammy and I tomorrow night over at Iron Rail Media. Their backup, it'll be the Iron Rail Media podcast channel. I know March 22nd, we're going to be back on the regular channel and we're going to start getting guests on and all that kind of stuff again.
Ooh, nice on Skull and Bones Day.
Yeah, exactly. That's when they gave us our freedom back to speak to you all. Yeah, this was a 3-month one. They banned us this
I
time.
heard CNN talk about Congress fighting for like the freedom of speech when it comes to social media. I was like, what? And yeah, I'm kind of making a big deal. Apparently, there are certain platforms that are claiming freedom of speech, but it's edited freedom of speech. And yeah, that was a interesting news article.
Yeah, there's very few platforms that allow it. I know Rockfin pretty much lets us say just about anything. There's a couple, things they don't want you talking about because in certain countries, things are illegal. You're not allowed to say them. So if we say them and they get shown in that country, it'll get struck from that country and nobody in that country will be able to see it.
Yeah, when this whole fight is going to Congress, that's saying something. We've got enough people behind us on this.
Yeah. Well, all right, folks, that's going to do it. I hope you all enjoyed the show. You guys have a wonderful rest of your week and a wonderful weekend. And I hope to see you over at GLOBEBUSTERS on Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Until then, you guys just be good to each other. Don't lie to each other. Open your mind because there's truth inside. Peace out, everyone.
All right, later. Peace.
Peace and war. Keep on fighting.